Right now, I want to welcome to the program the CEO of Ruger, Michael Pfeiffer, is with us. Mr. Pfeiffer, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
You bet. Thanks very much for coming on the program today. As I said, we're going to be talking with Larry Keane, the head of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, coming up in just a little bit. And one of the things we'll be talking about is the lawsuit that the National Shooting Sports Foundation is involved in regarding microstamping in California. But your company, as well as Smith & Wesson, you've both announced that basically because of the microstamping law, you are not able to sell new semi-automatic handguns to the consumer market. At least that's my understanding. Is that correct?
No, you've got it absolutely right, and it's actually worse than that. Not only can we not get any new guns on the roster in California, but California is forcing all of our guns that were on the roster, they're forcing them off the roster.
So, in other words, the number of available firearms that the state of California has deemed suitable for sale is actually going to go down.
I think it's going to go down very dramatically, and I wouldn't be surprised if within a couple of years that there are no semi-automatic handguns on the roster at all from any manufacturer.
Okay, and why is this, Michael?
Because the reality is when you're running a manufacturing company, you're constantly making some kind of small improvements to your process. You're going perhaps from a machine part to a MIM part or the other direction. You're improving the fiber content of a glass-filled polymer. You've gone from 4/16 steel to 3/16. You're always constantly making tiny little improvements, and they don't change the function or design of the gun. But California has suddenly gotten really sticky and said if you've made any change, no matter how small, to the material or manufacturing process, this is in addition to changes to design, then you're done, and you've got to resubmit that model for testing as though it's a brand new gun, not as though it's an established gun that we're just making sure it's still, as they say, not unsafe.
Right.
But you've got to treat it like a totally new gun, and that means it's got to meet the microstamping requirements. And frankly, we can't do it, and neither can anyone else, because it's a completely ridiculous technology that just can't be implemented.
Okay, so you can't sell to the consumer market. I've got to ask you, Michael, has any consideration been given to simply stop selling to California? I know that law enforcement is exempt from the microstamping standards. So even though the politicians in California swear up and down that this is technology that's going to make these guns safer, for whatever reason, they still believe that law enforcement should have quote-unquote unsafe guns in their hands. Has your company given any thought to simply saying, look, if we can't sell to consumers, we can't sell to anybody in California?
It is something we've wrestled with quite a bit, but I'll give you an example of something that made us pause. I think it was just about a year ago. There was a wild guy down in Southern California that was running around shooting a policeman. Yes. And I think the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department finally got him. Well, that Sheriff's Department used Ruger Mini 14s, and in the middle of the firefight, they ran out of loaded magazines. And they came to us and said, we need some more magazines. What do? Do I deny those sheriffs who are really good people? I want to deny the politicians. The politicians don't deserve to own a Ruger. But can I say that to the sheriffs who are out there fighting a bad guy and their lives are in danger? I'm pretty hesitant to do that. These guys, they deserve our support, even though the politicians do not.
Talking with Mike Pfeiffer, the CEO of Ruger. And, Michael, this position by the state, though, does seem to indicate that there really isn't a public safety benefit. This supposed microstamping technology doesn't make this gun inherently safer.
That's
right?
Correct. This is strictly a gun grab. They're trying to deny citizens of California their Second Amendment rights.
So do you have, I know it must be hard to have much faith in the legislative process, at least as far as a remedy goes, but does Ruger support the NSSF lawsuit taking on the microstamping law?
We do support it, and in fact, we're joining some other lawsuits as well. It's going to have to be litigation to finally get their attention and get this thing turned around. One of the things that gives me a little bit of hope in the litigation process is that recent ruling, I believe it was in Chicago, where a judge said, look, if you won't even let the people buy guns, you've effectively denied them their rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's overturning the rules about no gun stores in Chicago. And I think in there's a little opportunity for the whole thing in California. If they deny everybody in California's semi-automatic handguns, I think there's a real parallel with the Chicago case.
All right. In the meantime, as we see the number of semi-automatic firearms that have been deemed safe to be sold in California drop, I can't imagine, frankly, that gun control advocates, Michael, are any fonder of revolvers than they are semi-automatic firearms at the end of the day. Do you anticipate we'll see anti-gun moves going after other types of handguns?
Gee, I really have no idea. I don't expect them to go that far at this point. They're more, I think, focused on the guns they think are mean or evil, the ones they see on TV. That all those anti-gun Hollywood folks that make all their money portraying guns badly. I think that's what the politicians are focused on.
All right. Well, listen, Mike Pfeiffer, CEO of Ruger, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to talking again very soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Mike Pfeiffer joining us here from Ruger.